Neurosciencing the NFL, how players' brains recognize plays. A lot of times a quarterback will come to the line, look at the defensive configuration, and then change the play, call an audible, because he saw something. When we talk about baseball, we talked about that the batter is aware of where they are in the game, what inning is it, what the count is, what does this pitcher normally like to do, and that had to do with pattern recognition in the fusiform gyrus. Would those same areas, in theory, be active when one is identifying the pattern of a defensive posture or an offensive posture?
I think it's quite likely that is true. I think another place that's probably incredibly important is the cerebellum. There's two reasons. One is very concrete, which is that you have to make the right eye movements to assess the situation. You don't get eye movements that work without cerebellum having its say. When the quarterback is scanning, he scans because he knows how to move his eyes, because he's done it a million times in practice. What does cerebellum need? It needs practice. You practice it over and over and over again. And as smart as they are and as competitive and as motivated as they are, it doesn't happen until they practice it, because the cerebellum is a data-hungry beast. And it wants practice. It wants to see this stuff over and over again in order to get the right program to go forward.
And that development of the cerebellum program, that's the same thing that allows gymnasts to perfect their routines and allows all the finely tuned physical things that we do, that athletes do and performers do, that impress us so much.
Normally we think about it taking in motor data and putting out coordinated output, but it could also take in non-motor, perceptual, motivational, affective input and put out a commensurate output. So that's why I think that this recognition of the defenses probably has an eye movement part to it, and then a part where you're able to recognize patterns in a visual scene. You're able essentially to perceive them better using your cerebellum.
There's not any one area of the brain that's responsible for any one particular thing. When we speak about the cerebellum being involved in recognizing plays, when you see things light up on an fMRI, it doesn't mean that that part of the brain is working and everything else is asleep.
To emphasize that point, the cerebellum actually has no access to motor neurons. So it can't do diddly squat. It has got to go through other areas. So it wants to talk to cortex. Cortex won't understand you unless you come from thalamus. So it goes to thalamus, which goes to cortex. And it also goes to brainstem areas such as the superior colliculus, the right nucleus. This is a very dynamic set of pathways.
We speak of individual areas because it's interesting and useful in some ways to talk about.
And because we're just dumb humans. I mean, we have limitations. I can't imagine all of these areas in the same depth at the same time. So when I teach, for example, motor pathways, I have to choose the ones I'm going to call primarily motor, but everything is, if I, for example, didn't thermoregulate, I couldn't walk. So everything is involved.